Yeah, perfect. So in like previous, let me admit again. So okay, in our previous class, we learned about binding variables and dynamic query, right? So can anyone please define or explain me how dynamic variables work and binding query works, please? Just an differentiation, or how do we use it, where do we use it, in one or two lines. Hope you all understand the concept, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
please.
dynamic,
Yeah.
we use dynamic query
Hmm.
by defining it in a test string,
Yeah.
and dynamic query are also compile time.
Hmm. Perfect. So how about like binding query, like whatever the thing that you said is for binding query. So how about the dynamic one? So dynamic ones are the one which runs during a runtime. Okay. So now I will explain you all three. In this session, I will explain you all three concepts, because this is something very important when we have an uh, in a real scenario. Okay. Let me share my screen. So you can see my screen, right? Yes. Yeah, perfect. So in here, let's not think of this. Let's keep this aside. So in here, what exactly I'm trying to get is I need a list of accounts where its name is equivalent to like United and Industries Energy. So in this org, we have three set of accounts similar to this query. So let me show you that. So I'm just run this one. So currently with United, we have three queries, three records. So on like setting a filter, if we run it again, we'll have these three records, right? So how do we get that using a bind variables? So like Gaurav said, bind variables are nothing but we declare an variable and set that uh, assign those value to those variable, and use those variable within the filter or an uh, SQL using colon, starting with colon, and then we'll execute it. So what exactly the binding variables, binding query won't support is we can't declare something like, just imagine, I need an account field. Accounts F is equal to, I'll just say rating. So let's say I'm using this and I can't use this here, because when whatever the thing that we say in the colon, that will be used only in an filter, not cannot be used with for an field. So that is a drawback of using a bind query. And then when we execute this, we get a same three records. Okay, we get the same three records. So we have seen this. So we have assigned these values. So then the line 2, line 3, we have assigned these values. And at the line 6, this replace the bind variable value and then execute it. So we have a 3 row, right? So that's where binding variables are used in a query. So if we have the same, if we take the same logic for executing, let me comment this. you use the same thing in a in an a dynamic query. So what exactly we're gonna do is, so we will similar way, we will have these two fields declared, right? Then we will create a SQL as a string. So let's say that we will have a string query is equal to, let's copy this and paste. Right, this will be our SQL. And how exactly we will be querying it? The simple way. So we use database.query. So if we use this database.query, this query gonna execute. So let's execute this. In here, what exactly we are doing? We are using the same variable and the same like account name and the industry. We are creating an SQL here and passing that SQL within an database.query method. This gonna execute and we get same 3 records. So what is the difference here? The main difference is in the bind query, we cannot add an field in an execution part, which means here. Okay, but if we go, let's go here. And I want to have a rate. So can we use a field here? Anyone? Yes, we can. So what exactly we can do is, we will just say and execute this. There is no field. Okay, what exactly is? I missed comma. Let's execute. Okay, in here. So in here, what exactly we have passed? We have to pass same thing, but with three fields, like sorry, 4 fields. So what exactly that means? During the runtime, we can have or we can include additional fields as well. That is where dynamic query comes in. So we don't know what are the fields need to be retrieved, but during the runtime, we will have an idea what are the fields that could be added for an execution. For example, like I said in a previous class. So we have a school over there. So it has 2 classes, class 1 and class 2. If it is a class 1, I need only 3 variables or need only 3 fields that need to be retrieved. One is, and let me just give me a moment. Okay, one is student roll number and his name and his parents value and its parents detail. So that is what I need if it is a class 1. If it is a class 2, I need all like additional field, which is what is the score that you have scored in a previous class, which is in class 1. So we can add that variable or an field during the runtime. That is where the dynamic query come in. So in similar way, when we have this, when we execute this, we can also set what type of the access level should be. So like I said, there are how many access levels? There are 2 access levels. One is user, the other one is system mode. So what exactly user mode does? If it is a user mode, so all the permissions, which means object permission, field level permission, and the sharing rules, everything will be checked. Everything will be enforced. But if it is a system mode, these are not being checked. Only the sharing rule will be checked. That is where user mode and system mode comes in. So what would be the default during the execution of this thing? If you are using dynamic, in the dynamic that we use database.query, right? What would be the default execution mode? So it will be user mode, which means, so from 66, whenever and we use a dynamic query, 66 API version. So when we use a dynamic query, the values that get executed has in a system mode format. Okay. So previously, before 56 or from 56 to 65, so the execution would be as an system mode. So that's where these levels are being set. So what happens? We have a question: what happens if system mode is not set? So if like the same thing which I am explaining. So if you are running the query, which means the database or query in an API version less than 56, or sorry, less than 66 to 56, it uses system query as a system mode. System mode. And if on above that, whatever the thing we have 67, 68, so that uses user mode, which means it enforces permissions. So that's where this second parameters comes in. So now, like said, I gave you a homework saying that, can someone please explain me what is database.query with binding means? Did you had a chance to review this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Gaurav. So why do we use that?
Sir, I can't get it, but I search it, and the only thing I able to understand that it restore if we use dynamic query with binding. With binds, it store data in a list of S objects.
Okay.
Yes.
So
And
what sorry. Come on.
it also take the input as a key value map.
So what exactly key value map means? So key value pair means map. Okay, good. So the binding variable should be set in a key value pair, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me explain you why we use dynamic with binding use. So when we use dynamic query, so at that moment, so whenever, like I said, it's a runtime execution, right? So when we run it, so it reads the bind values from an apex variable, like Gaurav said. So if it is a query, it search for an apex variable in here. So if you want to replace something, it search for an apex variable, right? When it goes to an query with bindings, it search for a value from a map, which means we create a map, we set these values, the same values in a map format, and then we send it as a parameter. Okay. So why we use query with binding and query difference is, so let's imagine if this variable does not exist in an execution scope, which means if it has multiple methods and we forgot to pass this thing, at that moment the query get lost. So we use when we goes to an query with binding, we use local variables are not replaced. So local variables cannot be replaced, which means the value will be set exactly. Okay. So, and for the first one, if you use dot query, it is good for simple dynamic queries. It cannot be reused. So if we have something, we use this dynamic with query, the query with bindings, it will be better for reusable query builder. Okay. So that is where we come across where exactly we'll be using the two different things. So let's imagine. So we have the same query with binding. It's just simple. We'll have the same thing. Replace this. So let's have this as 2. I'll run it as 2. I'll just comment this one. And I want this to. We'll have this. And like Gaurav, like I said, and like Gaurav said, what exactly we will be mapping with? We'll create a map as string, comma, object. We'll take a variable as binding. So let me make it larger. As binding, and we'll create a new map. And we have 2 variables. Set them here. I'll remove this. So what exactly we have done here? We have a same query, but we have created a bind variable with the same values. Instead of using a variable, we have created a collection, and we will pass that collection in as a third parameter. Right? We'll pass that collection as a third parameter. And when we execute this, so these values get replaced with United and then energy. Let's execute this thing. So we have executed. Let's wait. Oh, there is one. Right. Sorry.
Sir,
Uh-huh.
we are missing.
Yeah.
After, as we declare the map, we do not use semicolon. Line 23.
Correct. Perfect. Thanks.
Line 23. Also.
23. Okay. Incorrect. The method does not exist. So it should be correct, right? So we use line. Okay, this is the one. It's called query with bytes. Perfect. So when we see here, what exactly we have checked is, just give me a moment. What exactly we are doing here is, so we have, this is not the one. Okay. So here in the line 18, let's use a anonymous window. In the line 18, we have created a query. Yes, in the line 18, we have created a query. In the line 20, we declared or we created an map as well. So we have used access mode too. So access mode has been enabled here. So in the line, you can see here, right? System method query entry is, it's also enabled. So while compiling, it generated a query, right? And during the execution runtime, the values got replaced, and we have 3 rows executed here, right? So like said, so what are the 3 parameters that bind with query takes? It takes three parameters. One is a query. The second one is what is the bind variable is. So the bind variable is should be a map. And the third one would be an user access type. So these are the three queries, three parameters that bind with query tick. Okay. So what are the difference over here? Main difference. So when we use query, it checks for an apex variable to replace. But if you use query with binding, it checks for map. Okay. So the query, the variable must be in an execution scope, which means it should be in an execution field, which means in the same method. But it can be, if you go to an query with bindings, it can be set in anywhere in a local variable. Okay, these are the main concept that we'll be using. But the third thing is, by using a query, you can pass a single value, which means single parameter, which means you can just pass an query itself. So whatever the default execution method would be, the default execution method for a query will be user method. But when you go to an binary like query with bindings, you need to explicitly accept whether it is an user mode or a system mode. That is a mandatory. Okay, these are the three major things that we'll be using this binding query and then query with bindings. Query or query with bindings are used. Okay. So any doubt on this thing? Okay. Okay, guys, I'll be wrapping up now. Sorry for it. So I have 2 minutes for my next call, like to my next meeting. Let's meet up on Saturday and we'll have DML. So if you really need a DML explanation, we'll have that session, or else we'll jump into Apex. And one other thing, we have one, I just figured out something. So there is an event coming on next month. So you can check here. So it's an basic, they are teaching about that Agentforce. If you are interested, please register it and take an advantage of it. So I have shared the same thing in the Slack too. Please do take a look of it. So bye now. Me too.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, wait.